Hello, this is Recovery Diaries in Depth. I'm your host, Gabe Nathan. Thanks so much for joining us. We're very happy to have you here. We are so grateful to have as our guest on the show today, Lilah Velez. She is a conceptual designer who uses interdisciplinary practices to communicate her ideas. Back when we first profiled Lilah, it was 2018, and we created a film about her when she was a student at Moore College of Art and Design in Philadelphia. The film is called Lilah James, which is who she was back then, Complex PTSD on the Runway. Each week, we'll bring you a Recovery Diaries contributor, folks who have shared their mental health journey with us through essay or video format. We want to see where they are on their mental health journey since initially being published on our website. Our goal is to continue supporting our diverse community by having conversations here on our podcast to follow up and see what has shifted, what has changed, and what new things have emerged. We're so happy to have you along for this journey. We want to remind you to follow our show for new and back episodes at recoverydiaries.org. There, like the podcast, you'll find stories of mental health, empowerment, and change. You can also sign up for our mailing list there so you never miss a new podcast episode, essay, or film. And you can find this podcast pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. We appreciate your comments and feedback about our show. It helps us improve, make changes, and grow. And of course, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Lilah Velez, thank you so much for joining us here on Recovery Diaries in Depth. It's a joy to have you here.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
So, Lilah, one of the reasons why we do this show is because we have a community. We have a community of writers. We have a community of storytellers, a community of documentary film subjects, and an essay or a film is a snapshot in time, right? And we publish an essay in 2014 and life goes on. We make a film like yours in 2018 and life goes on. You were Lilah James back then. You're Lilah Velez now. Obviously, things happen in life. Things change. And so congratulations.
Thank you.
And I would love to rewind a little bit to 2018 when we made your film. And I would love you to talk a little bit about who you were then and what were you doing, and where were you in kind of your mental health journey?
So in 2018, that was towards the beginning of my mental health journey for sure. So in 2017, that's when I checked myself into an intensive outpatient program for the first time because I was in crisis. And that's when I got my CPTSD diagnosis. So that was a year prior.
Can I stop you for just a quick second? So you said two things with letters, IOP and CPTSD.
Yes.
For folks who are listening who may not be familiar with either of those things, can you describe just briefly what intensive outpatient is and also CPTSD?
Sure. So IOP, intensive outpatient program. So it is one or two steps down from an inpatient mental health facility. So what that means is you go in every single day for a few hours a day. Usually every IOP is structured differently. But this one, there would be almost like an open discussion, almost like Alcoholics Anonymous, things like that, where we talk about our experiences. And then the second part will be almost a lesson where we are taught coping skills. Mm-hmm. So I chose not to be inpatient. And so that's why it depends on the severity of the situation, but luckily my situation wasn't as severe as others. So I was able to go home at night and then go in every day.
Okay. Thank you for describing that. I think people who are kind of in the world know what it is. But we've got lots of listeners, lots of different experiences. So it's a very helpful description.
Absolutely.
And CPTSD, a lot of people know PTSD, a lot of people don't really know or understand CPTSD. So maybe just talking about the differences with those two diagnoses would be helpful for folks.
Sure, absolutely. So CPTSD stands for complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So PTSD is typically related to distressing symptoms from a particular traumatic event. CPTSD is when there are multiple compounded traumas that happen particularly for people in childhood. So that is just being in, an abusive household. It could be, things that happen outside of the home. It could be a combination of all of them, which was my experience. And the difference is that these traumas happen during your foundational development. And so it affects how you go throughout your entire life, basically, and how you see the world, etc.
So thank you very much for describing those and for pointing out the differences. One traumatic event versus some or many over time, particularly in childhood. That's really helpful. So I want to then return back to what you were saying. 2017, you received your CPTSD diagnosis then, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so can you just talk a little bit about a little bit more about that time in your life, and maybe what it was like to receive that diagnosis and then start educating yourself about it and learning about triggers and responses and all of that kind of thing, all the while engaged in studies, engaged in fashion studies. Your life is going on at this time too.
Yes. Honestly, it was kind of a relief to get some sort of diagnosis. It was also a validation for me as well, like an explanation as to why I felt as though life was so difficult for me. And at that point in 2017, a little warning, this is a bit of a sensitive topic, but I wanted to end my life because I was just in so much pain. And, I wanted to be around because I love my sister so much. And really, at that time, she was the only reason why I wanted to keep on going. And so that's when I enrolled myself in this program. And, I was able to find a love for life again. And the things that I love about my own life, because, you can't live for other people. You have to live for yourself. Right. That's not fair to the other person. That's not fair to yourself. I love music and I loved creating art. And I just remember prior to this diagnosis, prior to being in this program with a bunch of people, who I've met, who have had similar or worse struggles than me, I felt so alone before. I felt so alone. And that's why I wanted to focus my art on like speaking about these things. So people, because the way I grew up, we weren't allowed to talk about our feelings. And that's very common.
Ditto.
That's,
yeah.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. So, I was like, what is wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. But it's expected that life is hard. Life is hard for everybody. And how we deal with them is how we deal with our struggles is different, And so yeah, that's where I was at.
Were you, before you received your diagnosis, were you navigating being triggered? Did you know what that was when that was happening? Did you know this may have something to do with experiences in my early life. How were you coping with this, prior to IOP and the diagnosis? If you can talk about some of those earlier experiences, I'd love to hear a little bit.
So actually, I've been in the, I guess I should say, I've been around the mental health community for most of my life because my older brother is schizophrenic. And I am still very close with my older brother. And so, I was dealing with triggers, and for sure, I was having panic attacks like daily, at least once a day. And I knew something was wrong. I knew something was off. I guess I just didn't quite give myself the validation that, like, maybe I could be struggling as well. Just because I don't have schizophrenia doesn't mean that I don't have something going on. And so, there was a big sense of denial where I was like, well, I'm not that bad, so I don't need treatment.
Right.
Yeah, but, it doesn't have to be like that. If you feel like you're struggling and like you need help, like, go get it. You probably do.
Yeah, and one person's mental health challenges don't invalidate another's, whether you're in a romantic partnership or it's your family or friends. Everybody has a right to their own shit, right? Like,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
we do that. We do the whole suffering Olympics thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have anxiety, not bipolar. Oh, well, I have bipolar, not schizophrenia. Oh, I
Mhm.
have, but like there's not a hierarchy of suffering or where one person deserves help and the other doesn't. It's like, no, we all need help. We just may
Yeah.
need different tiers of that or different levels of that, different kinds of intervention.
Right, absolutely. So I think that's where IOP, intensive outpatient program, was better for me rather than an inpatient program, personally. But, I believe everyone needs therapy. I think everyone, just being a human, especially in the society as it is right now, it's really tough. We all have our struggles. And I think just having like a healthy outlet and healthy coping mechanisms, it's not, maybe nowadays more, it's taught more so, um, but still not enough, in my
Yeah. I
opinion.
mean, I think the landscape is changing. I think, you know, part of the reason we do what we do here at
Mm,
Recovery Diaries is like we want to talk about these things. And the more that you talk about something, the less stigma there is attached to it.
exactly.
The more people feel comfortable saying the word suicide, the more
Mhm.
people feel like they can talk about things that were before talked about in whispers or in
Yeah.
coded language or kind of swept under the rug, like in your family or in my family, right? We don't talk
Mhm.
about that. Whatever that is, we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And it really serves no one. Um, because then we're just stuck in that loop of silence and secrecy and shame, right? And I'm
Yeah.
sure you felt a lot of shame about big emotions that you were experiencing or big reactions to things that maybe other people were like, what the hell's her problem? Why is she so,
Yeah.
why is she acting like this?
Yeah. There was definitely a lot of shame. Um, and therefore isolation, which also doesn't help anybody. It especially doesn't help yourself when you self isolate like that, due to shame. And honestly, that is what can lead to, someone ending their life. In my case, like I really felt like I had no one, I had nothing in that instance. And, you know, that's why I had to step outside of it. And, you know, we do need to talk about it more. I mean, even now, I'll be totally honest with you. I'm in a program again right now. for the second time. And part of me feels really embarrassed that I'm quote unquote like here again. But at the end of the day, it's so different than it was for me 10 years ago. It's so different. And, it's okay. And, half the people in that room are embarrassed to be there.
Right.
And I feel terrible because that's not how it should be at all.
No, this is what I need right now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, oh man, Lilah, there's so much I want to say to you and to people listening. And like, I want to be like your cheerleader, and you don't need that. But I do want to say that, like, and it sounds trite and cloying, and you've probably heard it in your program too. Like, relapse is part of recovery.
Yeah.
And if it's relapse on substance, or if it's relapse in, needing a certain kind of therapeutic modality that you needed in the past that you need again now, there's no shame in any of that. That is part of it. And again, like I said earlier, your film is a snapshot in time. That's where you were in 2018. And one of the things that I don't ever want to do at Recovery Diaries is present a kind of false narrative where we're like, okay, here's this person and things are really hard for them, and now things are great. And and put a little bow on it, and that's the story. Your life, anyone's life who's contributed to this site, is complex, and there are changes, and it moves along, and there are dips and valleys, and that's what life is.
Yeah.
And this is where you are right now, and this is what you need right now. And you're getting the help that you need right now, rather than needing it and being in denial about it and not getting it.
Right.
So I think that it's really important to recognize all of that. I'm sorry for like monologuing at you. But
no, thank you.
Go ahead, please.
I was going to say thank you so much for saying all of that. Yeah, I mean, it's something I had to come to terms with, and you're right. It is 1,000%, a part of recovery. And, especially something like CPTSD. I mean, there's multiple mental health diagnoses that are lifelong. And, every time you go back, you learn more things like to recovery, so I am in a way better place this time. I have, an incredible husband who is so supportive. I have a peaceful, happy home for the first time in my life. And, I have amazing friends. And I think that honestly, what happened was I wasn't able to heal quite in the same way as the last time I went into treatment, because I actually have a safe space now. And a lot of healing can't happen unless you have a safe space, whether you create that for yourself or, people around you, So, yeah.
And when you talk about having a safe space, just it sounds obvious, but what does it mean to you?
It means I have support. I'm able to come home and, after I've had a long day, I can come home and I'm not worried about what temperature is the house going to be. Am I going to be walking into violence? Am I going to be, is someone going to be mad at me? And, in a marriage, obviously there are ups and downs such as life. But at the end of the day, like my husband, if he was upset with me, he would openly and calmly communicate. And it wouldn't end horribly with my nervous system completely fried. And that is the most valuable the most valuable gift that I have in life is a peaceful
Yeah,
home.
because of course he can be upset with you, but it's being upset with love and
Mm,
empathy. And that's going to happen. That happens in my marriage. It happens in anybody's marriage. But there's unsafe anger and there's safe anger.
yes.
And I know for a long time, I feared anger, mine and other people's.
Yeah.
But there's really nothing to fear about it if you're with a safe person, and if you're safe. And, that's something that I really had to teach myself, um, and learn along the way. But
Mm,
it's hard because it's a scary emotion, especially when you've been around unsafe people and situations.
yeah. Um, and it's hard. Like, I'm sorry that you had to, go through that as well. But I think that I'm learning, my husband and I were both learning together that anger doesn't have to be um, scary.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just like life, because of course,
Yeah.
when you're living with CPTSD, everything is scary. You're in this constant state of hyperarousal
Yes.
and scanning for threats and, what's going to harm me here and who's going to turn on me and what is this, situation going to lead to? Who do I have to be afraid of? And it's, it's probably, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like realizing that you're in a safe space must have been almost like a shock to your nervous system because it's so radically different than what you've known before.
Absolutely. It was it was definitely a shock to my nervous system, and it took me at least a year after moving in with my husband, to sort of like settle for both of us, honestly, to settle in because he has his own traumas as well, you know, um, for us to finally just like have a sigh of relief and be like, okay, like we both have a common goal, which is to be respectful of one another. We have this unconditional love for each other for what feels like the first time in our lives. And, we both just want a safe space. So it was definitely hard settling into that and accepting it.
Hmm. Right. Because the mind wants to resist it, right? It wants to tell you there's danger here when really there isn't.
Yeah.
It's quite an adjustment. And I'm so happy for you, that you're
Thank you.
where you are and who you're with. It's wonderful. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the film, that
Hmm.
we made about you in 2018. So Recovery Diaries works in a kind of interesting way. Like I'm much more, or at least at that time, before I became executive director, I was much more focused on the essays and the writers. And then we have Glenn, who directs all of the films, and Fresh Fly, the crew that he works with, really kind of working on the films. So I didn't have any contact with you or know you or anything until I saw the rough cut, of the film. Glenn just came to me with this idea. I was like, "Oh my god, this sounds so great! Like, let's do it."
Hmm.
Um, but I was just absolutely blown away by your talent and imagination and creativity, um, and also just your spirit and empathy, that was just so imbued into what you were doing. And I felt like it was this perfect symmetry between you and your goals as a creative artist and us at Recovery Diaries and our goals. Um, so can you just talk about like how the film got started, like who approached who and how did that all happen? And what was the process of making the film like for you?
Um, Glenn came to the school to do it was commissioned from the school, I believe, that I went to, Moore College of Art, about a scholarship that I received, and other women as well. And I was talking about my work, and this was in 2018 when I completely shifted my focus, and my art was surrounding my mental health. And we just got to talking, and he was like, look, like, I would really like to talk with you more. And so, he came up with this idea to do a film about it, a short film. So yeah, that was like really cool for me, honestly. I was like, oh wow. I was like, people actually care,
People actually care.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you were in the midst of preparing your final project, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my thesis. And so basically my thesis was, it was a fashion collection, and every different look, there were 7 different looks. They were a physical representation of different CPTSD symptoms that were honestly like surrounding my life. So the first one was this veil, this like layers of just like tulle and words surrounding it, like my negative thoughts. And you could hardly even see the model under it. And that's honestly how I felt most of my life, honestly. And so things like that. Yeah.
Can you tell, like, okay, the question I'm formulating is,
Mm-hmm.
you said you made this decision to shift your focus
Yes.
to mental health and kind of imbue your design work with that. That's a hard choice to make. And I wonder, was it hard for you? And did you have hesitation around it? What was that choice like for you as a creative person and someone living with mental health challenges?
Well, yeah, shifting the focus, it felt like initially I was like, I need to get these feelings out. Like, I need to tell people, like, this is why I am the way I am. Like, there was a lot of like validation, and like being like, here, everyone look, like, this is what I have to deal with every single day. Like, if I'm acting weird, like, this is why, this is what's going on in my head. And also the process of creating and designing these pieces, it literally helped me overcome everything. It helped me to process certain traumas in my life. It helped me to, have less shame around them. Now, with that came then, Glenn was talking to me about doing this short film. And then people started saying, oh, wow, so now you're going to tell everybody that like your family was abusive. You're going to tell the world that like your family did this to you. And, we had a quote, maybe not now that I'm looking back, but at the time, it like to me and to a lot of other people, they were like, oh yeah, you have such a normal quote unquote life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always funny how a lot of abusive households are like that, where, everything seems picture perfect, but then behind closed doors, it's just obviously I'm not okay because of that, So then that shame and that second guessing myself, like, is this the right thing to do? And, now I'm going to always be associated with, having mental health crises and this, that, and the other. But, it got to the point where I was like, it doesn't matter. And me speaking on my experiences, like, I'm allowed to do that. For the first time in my life, like, I'm allowed to be like, no, like, this is what happened. And that's not my shame to carry. It's really not.
Yeah, you're not responsible for what happened to you and what was done to you. And to then, like a lot of abuse survivors, to then carry the weight of other people saying, "You're going to talk about this?"
Yeah.
Like, how dare you almost? How dare you air the family's dirty laundry? How dare you,
Hmm.
well, how about how dare them? And,
Yeah.
um, where is that? So you not only as the survivor have to carry what happened to you, but the responsibility of what do I do with this? Do I lock it up tight and kind of destroy myself from the inside? Um, or do I let this out and risk disrupting, other people's images of what my family structure was like and the family's own imaginary picture of what they and we were. It's a real mind fuck, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word, to do that, to you, to the person who went through all of this.
Yeah. Um, definitely. So, and at that point as well, it felt like, yeah, I literally had to let it out. And it honestly changed my family for the better at the end of it. I got to be
Hmm.
totally honest with
How?
you.
How so?
Well, you know, my younger sister, who I raised, she is 11 years younger than me. She was like, oh, wow, I can actually speak up. And then my brothers were all like, wow, maybe we did go through something. At first, there was obviously some denial.
Hmm.
There was definitely a lot of denial at first. And at first, they, were giving into the narrative like, how could you do this? How could you be vocal about, being an abuse survivor? And then we all got together one night, me and all my siblings, and we started talking about stuff. And we were like, no, yeah, this is like actually really messed up. Um, and now I have honestly a pretty decent relationship with my father. And that was, that this is a decade later. That didn't happen
Hmm.
overnight. I'll tell you that right
Sure.
now. And things are still obviously complicated with my mother, and the rest of my family, but I think it made at least me and all of my siblings stronger. And I think that, our goal collectively is to end this cycle of abuse and of silencing our experiences.
I think, you gave your family a pretty extraordinary gift by being the one to open up and really open that door for others in your family to walk through. Um, and I hope you know that you're also doing that for other people who you've never met. Um, when I was looking at your film again today, just to refresh my memory, uh, I saw this comment here. How am I the only person in 7 years to say how awesome this video is and how inspiring she is? And
Oh,
yes, to recovery and creativity are a powerful combination. This is exactly why I started my organization, Creative Recovery Virginia. Um,
wow.
there are people rooting for you. There are people who believe in you. There are other people who have gone through something similar um, to what you have, who are feeling empowered because of you. Um, and I just hope you recognize how important and how extraordinary that is.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about what the last, I don't know, 8 years have been like for you since we made that film? You obviously graduated. You won Best in Show for that collection. And before you talk about where you've been since, I have one question about
Yeah.
kind of looking back at creative work. after years have gone by. So I write a lot. And when I look at writing that I've done years ago, there's a cringe factor. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like I wrote that, like Jesus Christ, that sucks. Do you feel like that? Because I was looking at your outfits, I was looking at the looks, and I was like, there's no way that Lilah could look back at that collection and be like, ugh. But do you? Is there like a part of that in you?
Oh,
Like a
there's
kind of critical eye?
oh my God. Yes. My ability to look back and be hard on myself is like, it needs to be studied. It's just like, I mean, I look back at it and I'm like, wow, I did not line that bodice properly at all. And there's like puckering, and I was like, oh, I did not choose the right material for that. And, you know, this, that, you know, it's really easy to like look back and with a critical eye.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working really, really hard on being kinder to myself.
Love that.
And I think at this point now I'm like, no, you know what? That was really cool, you know? And also it was only, I was just in school at that point.
Right.
You know, like, okay, I've been doing it like professionally for a little over a decade now. So obviously my skills have increased, and I look back at that and I'm like, I feel like I want to redo it just to like really perfect it. And I'm like, oh, I don't have to do that. I really don't. Like it is a snapshot in time, and I'm able to look back and be like, wow, look at that. It had puckers in it, but it had character and it had a lot of passion, and you know, that's okay. And it's beautiful, you know?
Yeah. It is. And, maybe we would have made the film differently 8 years later.
Yeah.
Those techniques and whatever have refined over time. And we are who we are when we are,
Yeah.
And so, but I do love that you do have that critical eye, but are working on self-compassion. That's super, super important. That's definitely part of my journey as well. It's really hard. So take us through the years, 2018 to now. What's been going on professionally with you? Life, mental health. Where have you been?
Oh God, it's been a crazy decade, actually. A lot in a good way, though, I think. I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs, obviously, such as life. But the things that really come to mind are like, I met my husband. We started a life together, and that's been an incredible journey. Honestly, that's been like the focus of the last like 6 years of my life, the better part of the decade. And then I realized that relationships and things that make me happy are more important than success, honestly, quote unquote success.
Yeah.
And that is something that's actually very recent. This separation of like whatever success is, or this like, I don't know, society, like this impossible standard that we set for ourselves. Like I'm not tying my worth to that. And I'm not tying my worth to my creations. And I'm trying to find the beauty and the joy in creating, and remember like why I started this in the first place. So yeah, I mean, I've had a few different careers. I mean, I've been in the fashion industry, basically the whole time for the past 10 years. I was a barista shortly. That was honestly great. I loved being a barista, honestly.
Love that.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I don't know. Sometimes you just need a break from your work, you know?
Yep.
So that was fun for me. But yeah, so I started, I'm not going to name where I worked because
That's fine.
I'm going to be totally honest with you. I respect everyone that I've worked for, but they did not work for me, the jobs. And now what I'm doing, especially that I'm in the program, is I'm sitting back and I'm being like, I can create my life. I don't have okay, so maybe 10, 15 years ago, I wanted to be this big fashion person, whatever that means. And then I tried it 3 different times and I'm like, honestly, this isn't for me. I still want to create, but it's the structure, I need more flexibility. I need to be able to take a week off if I need it.
Right.
I have my own chronic health concerns as well. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I have fibromyalgia. I have this, that, and the other. If I'm not feeling physically well, I can't keep forcing myself to push through because my body literally has shut down earlier this year. So now I'm in a big transitional phase where I'm like, what do I want to do? And how can I achieve that?
That's such an exciting place to be, though.
Yeah,
because
it is.
You have the power, you have the control. And so many times I feel like we're kind of swept up in what either society's expectations are for us or, okay, I studied this and spent X amount of money on school. So now I have to just do this thing. And I'm kind of just carried away on it. But you have a lot of autonomy. And you have your needs, your mental health needs, your physical health needs, and to then be able to build a life around that, it's a wonderful opportunity to explore, who you are and what you can do with that.
Yeah. And I'm very fortunate to have, the space to be able to sit back for a couple months and regroup. But yeah, I think of the past 10 years and I just think of all of the trial and error. And, there were failures, definitely. I mean, that is part of life. And I think that I have successfully, at least at this point, I don't know where I'll be in 10 years, but haven't tied my worth to my failure. I think I've accepted that failure is a part of life. It's a part of learning. It's a necessary thing that happens.
And you're learning. It's an opportunity to learn and grow. And we're always learning from those experiences. I would love to conclude with a question for you.
Sure.
So I have no doubt that there are people listening who are either living with CPTSD or living with someone who has CPTSD and loves them and wants to be there for them and care for them and support them, but may not know how, maybe making mistakes, maybe making situations worse inadvertently. It's a very difficult mental health challenge for the person living with it and for a partner or a family member who's, trying to be the support. I think often people come to Recovery Diaries either for the essays or the films or the podcast because they're looking for some kind of hope or guidance. And I would just love to hear from you. What do you have to offer folks who are coming here kind of looking for that?
I mean, just being there. If we're talking about somebody else in your life that has PTSD, what I would love and what has helped me is just having someone there consistently, offering love, maybe asking, if someone comes home and they're upset or they're triggered, asking them what would feel good in this moment. Do you need time? Do you need someone to listen to you? Do you need advice, validation? Do you want ice cream? Go for a walk? I don't know. Ask them what they want and just, just being there is more than anything, but also taking care of yourself too. Like and not forming like a codependent relationship, because that is something that I have also dealt with in the past as well. Like sometimes if I come home upset and my husband's like, listen, I'm also really upset, then we can just be like, look, let's both just not vent at each other. Let's like do what we need to do and then come back together and, but just knowing that at the end of the day, like we're going to be there for each other.
And also as the person living with this mental health challenge, I think one of the lies that mental illness, particularly serious and persistent mental illness, tells you is that you're going to be like this forever. And when you're at your worst, this is what it's going to be like, and this is going to be the story of the rest of your life. And it's just not true. And you've stuck around long enough to disprove that, lie. And you have had ups and downs like everyone does and will. But it's not the same. It's not the same as your worst moments. And as you're not defined by your failures, you're not defined by your worst moments of your illness.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's also something that I am being kinder with myself about. Like, yes, this is in a way something that I'm going to be dealing with for maybe the rest of my life, but this time is a million times easier, a million times better than I was 10 years ago. And every day is better than the last. And even if I, have a meltdown, have a panic attack, go through a depressive episode, it doesn't mean like it always honestly ends quicker. It's not usually as bad at all. And in this case, where it did my depressive episode and my grief, it extended pretty long. It's okay to go and get more support. It's okay to go and get help. And that doesn't mean that like, I'm a failure. It doesn't mean that, I'm gonna be like this the rest of my life. I'm a horrible person,
Yeah, it means you needed help now and you got it. That's all it means.
Yeah.
Very simple.
And I'll tell you right now, like this time that I needed help, it was like way earlier. I was like, oh, I'm starting to see the signs. Let me stop this before it turns into a crisis.
And that's the work right there. That's growth, and that's insight and awareness. And you're able to see it and catch it early and go, oop, pause. This is what I need right now. Just fabulous.
Yeah.
Lilah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. It was such a joy to talk to you. And I'm wishing you all the very best.
Thank you. You too. This was a great conversation.
Thank you again for joining us in conversation today. It's beautiful to see the progression of our contributors. What a very special treat it was to have as our guest today, Lilah Velez. She's a conceptual designer who uses interdisciplinary practices to communicate her ideas. You can find her on Instagram at Lilah James Couture, and you can find the film that we made about her in 2018 on our YouTube channel and on recoverydiaries.org. It's called Lilah James, Complex PTSD Recovery on the Runway. Before we leave you, we want to remind you to check out our website, recoverydiaries.org. There, like this podcast, you'll find additional stories, videos, and content about mental health, empowerment, and change. We look forward to continuing to grow our community. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We wouldn't be here without you. Be sure to join our mailing list so you never miss a podcast episode, essay, or film. I'm Gabe Nathan. Until next time, take good care.